I never knew he was planning this. My hearing returned, but my son's betrayal broke my heart. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung low and golden, casting long shadows that danced across the worn floorboards. I had just received my hearing aids back. After years of silence, the world burst into life, but instead of joy, I felt a storm brewing in my chest. My son Milo stood there, his eyes like dark clouds. I could sense it. Something was off. He was always the good one, my bright star. But today he was different. His hands trembled. I felt a crack in my heart like ice underfoot. Mom, he started, hesitating, licking his lips. I could hear the silence stretching between us, heavy and thick. It was suffocating. Milo was my everything. I had sacrificed so much for him, my dreams, my time. When I lost my hearing, he learned to communicate with me in sign language, his small fingers dancing in front of my face, bringing me back to life. I thought we were a team, bound by love and understanding. But now, standing in that dim room, I was filled with dread. Just days before, I had noticed something strange. Whispers when he thought I couldn't hear. Secretive glances exchanged with people I didn't know. The walls suddenly felt like they were closing in. I had brushed it off. How could I doubt him? The silence was louder than the truth. He finally spoke, his voice a shaky whisper. There is something I need to tell you. That flat tone washed over me like ice water. I was frozen in place, heart hammering. I searched his face for answers, but all I found was regret. My breath caught in my throat as I remembered the warmth of our last happy moments. The laughter, the hugs, even the silly inside jokes. Where had it gone? I was desperate for him to keep talking, fill the silence with something, anything to reassure me. Instead, he was fumbling, stumbling like a deer trapped in headlights. I could see the pulse at his throat quickening. I don't know how to say this, he finally said, his voice breaking. The room felt like it was spinning. My heart dropped like a stone. What could be so terrible? I clutched my chest, feeling the beat race beneath my palm. I've been involved in something I shouldn't have. His words hung in the air, pregnant with meaning. My thoughts spiraled. Flashbacks of his childhood filled my mind, splashes of paint, homework, the smell of cookies in the oven, stark contrast to the weight of his confession. Tell me, I pleaded. What have you done? But he couldn't meet my eyes. He turned away, the shadows swallowing him whole. I felt a sense of loss, like a million pieces of me slipped away, lost forever. This was my son, the boy I raised, not a monster. Milo, please, I whispered. You can trust me. But the truth was, the more I urged, the more he shrank back. I could feel anger boiling up, but behind it was fear of losing him, of seeing the facade crack. And then he spoke the words that shattered my heart. I'm in trouble, and it's worse than you think. Each word was a blow. My world tilted. I felt sick to my stomach. How could I pull him back from this dark edge? The tightness in my throat grew heavier as I realized, what if it was all lost? I reached for him, bridging the gap, but he recoiled as if I burned him. His face contorted in pain. You don't understand, he said. It's not just me. They're after you too, because of me. I stumbled backward, my heart racing, pounding as if it wanted to escape my chest. What? Who? What have you done? But he was shaking his head, tears glistening in his eyes, and all I could feel was the void, a chasm of unanswered questions swallowing me whole. How had my life unraveled so quickly? And the most terrifying thought echoed in my mind. Would I lose him to whatever dark path he'd walked down? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed were shrouded in a fog of uncertainty. Every corner of our home felt foreign, an echo of memories warped by this newfound reality. I caught myself often staring out the window, searching for clarity in the world outside, but nothing made sense. The soft rustling of leaves was suddenly alarming, like whispers of hidden dangers. Milo had retreated further into himself, leaving me stranded on the shores of anguish. I tried to reach out, but each time I did, he met my efforts with a wall of silence, as if confiding in me had become an unbearable burden. He spent hours cloistered in his room, clutching his phone as if it contained the answers to our deepest questions. My heart ached at the distance growing between us. One evening, desperation clawed at me, pushing me to brave his sanctuary. I knocked lightly. "Milo." The door was ajar. I could see the slivers of light in the dim room but not much else. When he didn't respond, I stepped inside. "Mom," he said suddenly, voice muffled, and I felt the weight of those two syllables shatter what little resolve I had left. "Milo, please just talk to me." I approached him carefully, noting how hunched he appeared, the shadows making him look smaller. "I'm scared. I don't know what's happening, but we can face this together." He turned away from me, his eyes cast down as if the weight of my words forced him deeper into despair. "You don't understand, Mom. I can't let you get involved." "Get involved? You're my son," I cried, the rawness of my voice cutting through the air like glass. "Whatever this is, we'll get through it together." He shook his head violently, his emotions spilling over. "No, you don't know what they're capable of. I can't let them hurt you." In that moment I reached into my pocket, feeling the smooth surface of my new hearing aid, a reminder of how isolated I had felt for so long. "Listen," I pressed. This is a gift. A chance for us to communicate, to be a team again. Please just give me something." Then out of nowhere he broke. Tears spilled down his cheeks, and I felt a surge of compassion wash over me. I couldn't let him feel alone. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're not alone. Just tell me who is after us. I promise I'll help you." But as the tension in the room began to simmer, there was a knock at the door, sharp and hurried. We froze, fear clawing at us. "Milo, this is Paul. Open up." My heart raced. The voice belonged to someone I trusted, a family friend. But the urgency in his tone sent tremors of dread through me. Milo's eyes widened. "Mom, no!" he shouted, grabbing my arm with such intensity that it hurt. I had never seen him like this, and the fear in his face filled me with a chill. "Let me handle this," he said, his voice trembling. "You need to stay back." Before I could respond, he dashed towards the door, determination etched in his features. "I'll take care of it," he added firmly, but the doubt behind his eyes betrayed him. I could feel the chasm widening, but time was slipping away. "Open the door, Milo," Paul shouted again, a mix of insistence and concern. "We need to talk. It's important." I stepped forward, my heart thudding loudly as I caught Milo's gaze reflecting my own turmoil. "If you don't let him in, it'll only get worse. We can't afford to be apart right now." It was a risk, but I sensed that Paul might be a harbor in this raging storm. With a reluctant nod, Milo moved to unlock the door, his face taut with anxiety. When it swung open, Paul took one look at us and knew. The air shifted, thick with unspoken truths. "What's going on?" he asked, concern etching deep lines on his forehead. My son opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The silence was deafening, and I could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on us. It felt as if time slowed. The room constricted around us, and before I could grasp what was happening, Paul took a step forward, closing the space. "We have to talk about the people who are after you. You're in real danger, Milo." Milo's face paled further, as if Paul's words struck him like a physical blow. He began to tremble, and suddenly one blink felt like a lifetime. The flicker of hope I had nurtured in the chaos started to dim as the gravity of our realities set in. "I can't let you go through this alone," I whispered, desperate to reestablish the fragile bond between us. But it was too late. The shadows had returned, darker than before. My son was caught in a web of fears that I was still untangling. Just as Milo opened his mouth to respond, there was a loud crash from outside, then rapid footsteps approaching our door. I felt my breath hitch. What was that? The color drained from Milo's face, and the look he gave me was one of pure terror. "They're here." My heart plummeted, panic taking hold. An impending dread that this was only the beginning of a nightmarish fracture that would pull us further from each other. And as the door shook under the force of the pounding, I had a chilling realization our lives would never be the same again. The pounding at the door intensified, a relentless battering that echoed through the house, resonating with the dread that had seeped into our hearts. My breath felt caught in my throat as I turned to Milo, his face a tableau of fear and despair. He was trembling, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Mom, you need to hide," he urged, his voice strained. The urgency in his tone sent a shockwave through me. "What? We can't just hide while they're out there. We face this together." But my words faltered under his piercing gaze, the depth of his distress turning to an unwavering resolve. "You don't understand. If they find you here, it'll be over for both of us. Please." A part of me wanted to believe that hiding was the answer. But how could I retreat when the one I loved most was in danger? Fear swirled around the room like a storm, and I felt overshadowed by the reality of our situation. Before I could respond, Paul stepped forward. "Milo, listen to your mother. We can't let them in here." His eyes darted from us to the door, then softened as he looked at me. "We have a safe place we can go to. I'll protect both of you." The crashing ceased momentarily, replaced by hushed whispers on the other side of the door. My throat constricted. Something told me that whatever was happening outside had roots deeper than we could understand. Milo shook his head, anger brewing under the surface. "No, I can't just run. I have to face this. They're coming for me, not you. Milo, your safety is my priority." I felt the walls of worry pressing down on me. "Let me help you. I can't trust you with this," he snapped, a depth of hurt layered beneath his frustration. "Every time I try to explain, you just what?" I shot back, feeling the force of his words lacerate through me. "I'm trying to protect you." The door shook again, louder this time, as if they were testing its strength, and I could feel the hairs on my neck stand at attention. Paul's grip on my arm was firm and reassuring. "We need to move now. If they break through, it won't just be you two they come after." With a defiant look, Milo stepped back, uncertainty raging within him. "I've dealt with this alone for so long. I can't risk bringing you into it." "Risk? This is what you've been hiding from me?" My heart cracked a little more with each confession he tried to bury. "Milo, hiding won't solve anything. I deserve to know the truth, and we deserve to fight against it together." The gravity of my son's silence terrified me. Secrets many times too heavy for his small shoulders, but I could feel the desperation of unanswered questions rattling in the silence. Just when I thought we had reached a stalemate, he whispered almost too quietly for me to hear. "I can't let you in on this pain, Mom. I thought you'd understand." Suddenly, the door splintered loudly, and cold air rushed into the room, filling it with an unsettling chill. I recoiled, my first instinct to reach for Milo to shield him from whatever or whoever was on the other side. "Milo!" Paul shouted, shooting forward. "We have to go. Now." As he fumbled with the lock, chaos unfolded before my eyes. In that fractured moment of uncertainty, I saw a flash of vulnerability on Milo's face, a reflection of the son I had watched grow up in the warmth of our home, now on the edge of an abyss. The door burst open, and two ominous figures loomed in the doorway, dark silhouettes against the dim light of the hallway behind them. It felt as if the very air thickened, burdening us with a weight of dread. "Milo!" One of them barked, a rough edge to his voice. "We know you're here. It's time to come with us." Paul moved to shield us, but a wave of cold determination washed over me. "No!" I cried out, stepping closer to Milo, urging him to stand his ground. "You're not taking him anywhere." "Mom, please," he begged, tears flooding his deep-set eyes. "I can't have you involved in this." But it was too late for retreat. The ferocity in his voice collided violently with the vulnerability I could see, and suddenly my world felt small, the edges fraying like a tattered thread. "Who are you?" I demanded, gathering shards of my courage. "What do you want with my son?" The second figure stepped forward, revealing a face I recognized but could hardly believe. A jolt of betrayal shot through me. "It's time, Milo. You can't hide anymore." My heart raced as I turned slowly back to my son. "What is this? Milo, what is happening?" He looked torn, and in that moment of uncertainty, faced with the weight of secrets and the fury of betrayal, I felt something inside me shatter. "I never knew he was planning this," I whispered, realization dawning like a cold sun rising ominously through the darkness. The room spiraled into chaos as the tension reached its peak. And just like that, we stood on the brink of a truth too painful to face, our lives tangled in a web of lies, one that seemed to stretch far beyond this chaotic night. Little did I know, the hardest realization was yet to come. The world had narrowed to a pinprick of light and sound, The chaos swirling around us rendered distant, unreal. My heart felt as though it beat in my throat, a frantic drum echoing through my body. Milo's eyes were pools of anguish, flickering between fear and defiance, and though I couldn't comprehend the full weight of his choices, I could feel the betrayal pulsing between us like an electric current. Why didn't you tell me? I managed to choke out, my voice thin and shaky. What is this, all of this? His gaze darted to the intruders, and a flicker of resolve ignited behind his pain. I thought I was protecting you, he whispered, the truth spilling out like the shards of glass that fractured our lives. I didn't want you to carry this burden. Burden? I echoed, feeling an incredulous anger wash over me. Milo, it's not your job to shield me. We're family. We face things together. The intruders shifted forward, imposing and impatient as if they somehow thrived on the tension that crackled in the air. One of them, with eyes that held an unsettling familiarity, glanced back at Milo with a grin that sent shivers down my spine. It's time to stop protecting those who cannot handle the truth. Milo, who is he? What do they want? Desperation clawed at my gut, intertwining with the confusion swirling in my mind. But before he could answer, Paul broke through the fog enveloping us. We have to leave now, he barked, his protective instinct kicking back into gear, but it seemed to have little effect against the looming dread. In a heartbeat, everything narrowed down once more, suffocating and intense, and I could feel the walls closing in around me. No, I shouted, gripping Milo's shoulders, willing him to see the desperation in my eyes. Don't let them take you. Milo, the figure crooned, his deep voice laced with a false kindness that chilled me. This isn't what you think it is. You're meant for more than this life of secrecy and shame. Shut up. I spat, the bile of fear and fury bubbling in my throat, my instincts screaming for me to shield my son from whatever fate loomed before him. But Milo was frozen, caught in the tornado of his emotions. I'm not going with you, he finally said, a tremor betraying the resolution in his words. I won't let you control me anymore. Not even when it means saving everything you love? The smugness in the stranger's voice made my blood run cold. You'll regret this, Milo. You think hiding in the shadows protects them? But trust me, the truth always finds its way back. You can't outrun your heritage. A shudder traced through me as the weight of his words settled heavily in the room. What could that possibly mean? What heritage? I felt Milo tense, the defensive wall he had built over the years cracking under pressure. No, I shouted as panic surged within me. You're more than any heritage. You are my son. The cruel laughter of the figure rang through the room, mocking and dark. You don't even know what he truly is. But he does. And that's exactly why he can never be free. Milo, please. The urgency rang in my voice, each word dripping with fear. My son was teetering on a cliff, and right now I couldn't reach over to pull him back. What are they talking about? Milo's breath hitched, and for an instant, I saw the flicker of a shattered spirit, the flickering flame of hope almost extinguished. I can't. The heady silence of that moment spiraled into chaos as Paul lunged at the intruders, attempting to shield us not just physically but emotionally. A desperate surge defying the abruptness of impending loss. Back off, he yelled, pushing them away with all his might. But they were unfazed, eyes glinting with anticipation, as if they had been waiting too long for this very moment. The weight of their lingering presence bore down on me, and I clutched Milo fiercely, trying to catch his focus. You're so much stronger than this, I urged, squeezing his hands tightly in mine. Don't let them win. This is your life, your choice. But he shifted away, the light of determination dimming beneath a canopy of chaos. I've been chosen, Mom. There's no fighting this. Those words cut through me, piercing, raw, and heavy with the burden he bore alone for too long. Chosen for what? I whispered, heart sinking into despair. Chosen because he hesitated, his voice falling to a whisper. I am not just Milo. I'm part of something bigger, something dangerous. The revelation settled over us thick and suffocating, and I felt like I was losing him to an abyss I never even knew existed. The familiar warmth of my son was disappearing, replaced by a chilling truth. I was not prepared to face one that threatened to consume everything I held dear. And just as I grasped the weight of that understanding, the room trembled with the sound of the door slamming shut behind Paul, cutting off our only chance of escape. Milo! I called out in horror. And in that moment, Helplessness enveloped me completely. This was not just a fight for his safety, it was a battle for his very soul, and facing that truth brought me to my knees. The darkness closing in felt insurmountable, and just when I thought I could no longer bear the burden of my son's choices, the intruder stepped closer, his eyes glinting with a promise that would shatter everything we knew. I guess it's time we revealed to you just who Milo really is. The world around us narrowed into a haunting silence that felt thicker than the air we breathed. My heart raced as I watched the figure move closer, his presence heavy with the weight of impending revelations. Milo stood frozen, caught between the person I thought I knew and the stranger looming in front of him. "Stop," I finally managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper. "Just don't say anything until we understand what this all means." I could feel the fissures of our bond splintering apart, shattering like fragile glass beneath the pressure of truth. But the intruder's grin only widened. "Oh, it's too late for that, dear woman. The time for understanding has long passed. You see, Milo has a legacy that cannot be denied." He leaned closer to my son, his tone dripping with mock tenderness. "A heritage steeped in power and darkness. He is destined for more than just this mundane life you've chosen for him." Milo's jaw tightened, but I could see the conflict dancing in his eyes. Behind his bravado lay a torrent of uncertainty. "No, I'm not," he whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of unspoken truths. "Not yet, at least." The intruder laughed softly, casting a glance filled with uncertainty toward me before rallying his resolve. "But that's why I'm here, to help him embrace who he truly is. To show him what he was born for." A dizzying wave of fear washed over me. "What are you talking about? He's just a boy." I couldn't help the trembling in my voice, desperation clawing at my throat as I pleaded with him. "Milo is not meant for this. Milo isn't just a boy," the figure continued, his voice a smooth caress that cut deeply. "He's part of a lineage that has stood long before you or I existed. Power flows through his veins, and soon he must choose to embrace it or face the terrible consequences." Milo's expression was torn between longing and dread. "I don't want this," he said, the anguish in his voice a raw plea that echoed in the corners of my heart. "I want to be normal. I just want to be me." "Normal?" the stranger repeated, a low chuckle vibrating through him. "You don't know what you're asking for, boy. Normalcy isn't in your nature. You belong to the shadows. The world can't protect you from what's coming. But I can." The turmoil that had taken up residence in Milo's eyes made my heart ache with an unbearable intensity. It was as if I could see the choices arising, tangling around him like vines, each one threatening to pull him away from me. "Milo," I whispered, my voice trembling, "listen to me. No matter what you think you are, I love you. You are my son. You don't have to give in to this." But he was already retreating, an invisible barrier forming between us, built on years of silence and isolation that had shaped him into the boy standing before me. "But what if I have to?" he whispered, more to himself than to me. The intruder clapped his hands lightly, the sound jarring in the heavy atmosphere. "Ah, perfectly said. It's time to stop running, Milo. Your invitation to the true path awaits. No one can offer you what I can." It was in that moment, when the air felt charged with desperation, that Paul burst back into the room. Breathing hard, he looked at the chaos unfolding around us, and his face transformed into a mask of determination. "I won't let you take him," he growled to the intruder. "Not now, not ever." "Fighting is futile," the stranger replied smoothly, a spark of amusement lighting his eyes. "You can't save him from himself." Before I could process the whirlwind of emotions tearing me apart, I stepped forward, positioning myself between Milo and the stranger. "You don't know him like I do," I implored, the well of love and anguish intertwined. "Yes, not just your pawn. He is a person with dreams and fears. You can't dictate his story." The intruder's demeanor shifted, something darker lurking just beneath his calm facade. "You misunderstand, dear woman. He is not a pawn, he is a king in the making. And soon he'll realize that you've only been a chain around his destiny." Milo's shoulders dropped, crushed under the weight of his lineage and my frantic desires as they clashed against one another. "Mom," he breathed, his voice raw, what if I am meant for this?" There was a hint of fear, but also curiosity, creeping into his words, and that realization sent shivers through my spine. My heart felt heavy, the truth spiraling out of control. Please don't. But then the lights in the room flickered, casting shadows that seemed to dance with malicious intent, as the very air vibrated with an energy I couldn't comprehend. An echoing voice penetrated the silence, booming and primal, reverberating through the very fabric of our reality. Milo, your destiny awaits. Everything stilled for a heartbeat, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. A truth far deeper than I could have imagined began to claw its way to the surface, and in that moment of shock, I realized that what I feared most had only just begun. The figure smiled as the shadows twisted around him, and a new fear took root in my chest. You see, Milo, the time has come. As the walls closed in tighter than before, I reached out, desperation clawing at my gut, certain that this could be the moment I would lose him forever. Milo! I screamed, and the last shred of hope flickered. Was I too late to bring him back? The answer echoed in the depths of that eternal moment, filled with more questions than I could dare to explore. What had my son truly become? And would I ever get the chance to know the truth before it was too late? The silence in the room was suffocating, each second stretching into an eternity as I stood between Milo and the figure, my pulse racing with panic. The flickering lights settled, yet the shadows around us felt thicker, more menacing. The intruder's face came alive in the dim ambience, a twisted reflection of triumph and darkness. I clamped my eyes shut for a moment, searching for clarity in the chaos, only to hear Milo's voice, a soft, fragile thing that sliced through my heart. I don't want to be afraid anymore. The words hung heavy in the air. Each syllable felt like a plea, a surrender to something I couldn't begin to grasp. My breath hitched, my chest tightening with helplessness. Had I been blind all this time to the whispers of darkness creeping into my son's mind? The thought made my stomach churn. Milo, I started, desperately reaching for him, but my arms felt heavy, as though they were weighted by the chains that bound his fate. You don't have to listen to him. We can fight this together. But the weary look in his eyes told me that something deep within him was shifting. An unsettling acceptance curdled in the back of my mind. The intruder laughed, a sound that echoed like shadows against stone walls. Fight? How delightful. But it won't matter. Milo is on the precipice of his true self, and I have no doubt he will embrace it. He extended a hand towards Milo, beckoning him forward with an allure I could see wrapping around my son like an intoxicating fog. Join me, Milo. Leave behind your mundane life and discover the power that is rightfully yours. Milo, I urged, fear breaking through the steadiness I tried to project. Think about what you're saying. Think about us. He flinched at my words, visibly torn. Mom, what if I meant to do something more? Each word he spoke felt like stepping into a deep pit from which he might never return. A part of him seemed drawn towards the unknown, the seductive promises of power, but I couldn't understand how he could want it. No, you're making a mistake, I shouted, frustration mounting like a tide ready to crash down. It was wrong, he was so young. This was all a fantasy, a sick game of manipulation. The love I felt twisted into a desperate plea. Please, don't walk away from me. We can find a different path together. For a fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of hesitation, a doubt that painted his features, a reflection I had come to recognize so intimately. The boy who had once sought refuge in my arms, the boy who would curl up next to me for late-night stories, was still somewhere in there, grappling with a raging war between love and fear. But the intruder's voice cut through that moment like a razor. You should not coddle him, dear woman. Love can be a prison, and you are holding him back from greatness. This is not the way of the world he is destined to know. Milo's eyes flickered back to the stranger, caught in a tangled web woven with threads of allure and uncertainty. What do I have to do? The question slipped from his lips as if it were an incantation. I recoiled, feeling as though I had been physically struck. My heart sank deeper. No, I gasped, stepping closer to him, my voice urgent, pleading. You don't have to decide anything right now. We can take our time. We can talk about this. You are not alone. But then, an unusual energy pulsed through the room, vibrating against the walls as I felt a shift. Something was coming. Something I couldn't escape. I glanced at Paul, who was locked in a fuming silence, his eyes darting between me and Milo, the tension palpable around him. In that moment, the intruder stepped forward, brushing aside my hands as if I were air. It's too late for talk, he said. The amusement in his tone now mingled with something darker. The universe has chosen its course, And soon even you, dear mother, will understand. Everything shifted again. A deep rumble underfoot that seemed to align with my own frantic heartbeat. Shadows wriggled and twisted, growing more pronounced in the dim light, as if a storm brewed just beneath our feet. With this power seemingly at hand, I felt adrenaline surge. It was palpable, tangible, calling my son towards it, a dangerous draw that I couldn't fully comprehend. Milo! I cried once more, wild desperation spilling from the depths of my being. What if there is something wrong with this so-called destiny? What if it leads you into darkness? You could lose yourself. Just as I said the words, the lights flickered again, and the shadows began to coalesce into solid forms, a multitude of ghostly figures materializing around us, littered with whispers that echoed my fears. The intruder's grin widened, overshadowing my anguish with an ominous satisfaction. Milo, I gasped, clutching at my chest with renewed panic. Look at what it's doing. You must see this, isn't right? We can find another way together. And then, just when I thought the dream of reclaiming my son was slipping through my fingers, he turned towards me, eyes brimming with everything he felt: confusion, anger, and an underlying determination that sent my heart racing. But what if I need to know, Mom? His voice trembled, wavering under the weight of all he didn't say. The question hung heavy between us as the shadows danced closer. In that moment, I felt both hope and despair cascading over me. Would I lose him to this tide? Or would he look back at the shores of our love and choose to fight? Before I could formulate a response, the shadows lunged and enveloped the stranger like a fierce tempest seeking dominion. It was chaos incarnate, and in an instant, everything I held dear felt like it was fraying at the edges. Milo! I screamed one last time, gripping tightly to the fraying thread of this moment, knowing somehow that the answer to his fate was closer than I dared to fathom. And then, in the eye of that storm, as I felt the darkness beckon and my resolve waver, I remembered the stories I once told him, the tales of heroes who faced perilous choices and emerged renewed. What do you choose? I whispered to myself, unsure if he could hear me, unsure if he could ever truly understand the weight of such a question. As the chaotic shadows began to spiral tighter, I braced myself for what lay ahead, dreading the revelation that could shatter everything I knew. The chaos of the moment rippled outward like a stone dropped in a murky pond, and amidst swirling shadows, Milo's expression morphed into something unrecognizable. The beautiful connection we once shared felt like smoke slipping through my fingers, a collage of memories and dreams now dwindling into shadowy uncertainty. Milo! My voice quaked, desperation clawing at my throat as I stepped closer, the air heavy with electric tension. Please, this isn't what you want. Each plead felt like echoing against an increasingly distant heart, and I feared my words were lost in the tempest that surrounded us. I watched helplessly as the shadows danced, twisting and turning, whispering secrets that beckoned to him in haunting tones I couldn't comprehend. His eyes, once bright and curious, were clouded with confusion, yet there was a flicker of something else, a strange darkness settling beneath the surface like a lingering storm. Mom, he said, voice barely above a whisper, each word heavy with the weight of a burgeoning burden. You don't understand. I have been chosen. The very thought crashed around me like a wave of icy water, knocking the breath from my lungs. Chosen? Chosen for what, Milo? This isn't you. My heart thrummed painfully in my chest, caught between the desire to save him and the instinctive realization that he was slipping away. You are not defined by darkness. You don't have to listen to him. But the intruder, steady and steadfast, grinned wider, his silhouette more imposing amidst the churning shadows. But is it really darkness, dear woman? Or is it merely the true potential that lies within him? To hesitate now would be a disservice to his gift. Gift's a chilling term that echoed with uncertainty. Was my son truly destined to embrace such a path? Or had this intruder twisted him into something unrecognizable? My thoughts spiraled until I could barely grasp reality. Each fragment of trust and love I held was under siege. Milo, what if I said I understand? What if you responded not to the darkness but to a choice you truly want to make? I reached out, a grasping hand towards the dim silhouette of my son. Think of our future, of everything we've built together. Please don't turn your back on that. For a moment, a glimmer of recognition flickered in his eyes, a fleeting jolt that ignited the warmth of his childhood, memories of laughter and joy illuminating the darkness. But what if I fail? His voice quaked, carrying fears I thought I had shielded him from. Every word weighed heavy with vulnerability. What if it's my only chance to be anything more than ordinary? I closed the distance, desperate to bridge the gap between fear and hope, nostalgia and turbulent reality. You could never be ordinary, Milo. You are so much more. That doesn't matter. You don't see, he insisted, taking a step back, shadows swirling behind him as if standing sentry. The collective whispers escalated, a cacophony no longer muffled by silence, and the figures swirled closer, urging him onward. And then I remembered stories of times when unexpected kindness had crept in, a hand touched in darkness that could illuminate a path. Remember the old oak tree by the lake? You used to climb to the top and say it was your kingdom, your throne. You were a prince, a hero to me. You can choose to be that again, Milo. My heart raced, desperately searching for any flicker of connection to rekindle our bond. The shadows faltered for just a moment, and I could see it, a hint of indecision on his face, the slightest wavering in his stance, but the intruder's looming presence pressed down like a vice. What a glorious kingdom awaits you, Milo. Don't be swayed by nostalgic tales meant to bind you. Your true family is here. Embrace it. His voice echoed, tearing through the fragility of my heart as he spoke. Mom, I just want to feel free. This is the only choice I've ever felt truly mine. His gaze locked onto mine, unyielding and resolute, and I felt the world shift beneath me. Please, I cried out, a rush of tears cascading down my cheeks. The storm around us intensified, shadows lunging forward as if trying to wrap him in the very darkness I feared. I could feel every heartbeat, every shattering fragment of our past, colliding against the weight of an uncertain future. Suddenly, with one last surge of energy, a blinding light erupted from the shadows, illuminating everything in our vicinity. I shielded my eyes, but from the glare came a child's laughter, echoes of joy that seemed to rise up like glittering shards, piercing through all the heaviness that had settled in our midst. Milo looked momentarily stunned as the warmth enveloped him, and I felt my heart leap. Was this the moment when he would remember? When the shadows would recede before the light of his childhood? But the intruder stepped forward, eyes aflame with indignation. This is not over. You cannot shield him from his true nature. And then the light flickered, revealing hidden faces in the shadows, the lost spirits of those who had fallen, warnings of the path I feared he might take. Their eyes shone with unshed tears as they whispered, "Choose wisely, dear son. You can redefine your fate." Before I could embrace the glimmer of hope, shadows lunged toward the light, colliding in a tempestuous explosion that left us reeling. The cries of spirits enveloped us, and somewhere in the chaos I heard the words, "What if he chooses in the end?" The darkness seemed to breathe, and as I glanced at Milo, realization crashed over me. I had underestimated the depth of his desire for belonging. Just in that poignant moment I discovered our fates were intertwined, and the choice was never just his. And then, like a wave rushing through me, a new presence emerged. A shadowed figure, cloaked in memories past, stepping directly into the path of the storm. They remained unclear for but an instant before the shadows began to swirl around them, enveloping both the intruder and my son in an ominous embrace. That I reached out, helpless yet determined, aware that whatever was about to unfold would lead our lives down an uncharted path. "Milo!" I screamed, my heart splintering. "Don't let the darkness pull you away." And in that moment I realized some choices are never straightforward, and as the shadows writhed around us, I feared we were all about to make one that would shape our destinies forever. The air crackled with anticipation, a burgeoning tempest filled with unspoken choices. I stood ready, my heart ablaze with fear, love, and an ache that felt like destiny tightening its grip around us. The tension in the air was thick, each second stretched to breaking point, as the shadows around us writhed restlessly, clamoring for Milo. He was trapped between two worlds, the warmth of love and laughter that flickered faintly in the distance, and the magnetic pull of the darkness whispering promises of power and freedom. I felt a chill seep into my bones, a realization dawning that we were standing on the precipice of an irreversible choice. "Milo!" I yelled again, my voice breaking under the weight of despair. "You don't have to choose them." The words flew from my lips like arrows meant to penetrate the chaos surrounding him. Since he was a child, I had watched as he sought acceptance, yearning to be recognized for who he truly was. But this wasn't the way to forge an identity. And then, just as the shadows began to close in tighter, enveloping his figure. His eyes met mine with an intensity that sent my heart thundering. I saw within him a flicker of the boy I had raised, glimpses of his laughter, his dreams and the love we shared. But mingled there too was a darker resolve, inciting a storm of anxiety that twisted my stomach. Deep within my heart, I felt a pang of betrayal not just from Milo, but at the choices he had made, the confidences that he had shared with that intruder over me. Had I failed him? Mom, this is my chance to break free. His voice trembled as he fought against the encroaching shadows. You don't get it. I need this. Desperation clawed at my throat. I had devoted every fiber of my being to protect him from the world's harshness, to keep his spirit untainted. The shadows lunged and a rush of memories washed over me. The bright days at the park, the way his eyes had sparkled with hope, and the time we built a treehouse together, trusting in each other so completely. Milo, please. Remember us. Remember who you are. But the voice of the intruder rang louder, enticing him with dark allure. You see, dear Milo, your mother symbolizes the very chains that can hold you back. You can be more. Feel the power within you. It has always been there. The shadows pulsed and rippled, beckoning the boy I knew to give in to temptation. Then, just as despair cloaked my heart, I saw it, a soft hand emerging from the darkness. A child's hand. Milo! Don't be afraid, the gentle voice called out, echoing the innocence he once carried. It was a ghostly apparition of his little sister, Lily. She looked just as I remembered her. Bright-eyed, bursting with life and full of hope, despite her fading presence. Lily? The uncertainty in Milo's voice faltered the shadows, grounding him to the moment. How are you here? I'm always here watching over you. You are not meant for this. Her voice was soothing, weaving through the chaos like a thread of light. You have a choice, brother. Choose love, not darkness. Tears brimmed in my eyes. Together, we had endured heartache. And to have Lily's spirit emerge now, was it an omen or a blessing? Shadows quivered, unsure of how this newfound presence would shift the dynamics. You must decide, Milo, whispered the specter of Lily, her eyes shining with sincerity. You are not alone. Mom will always love you no matter what. I don't want to lose you again. He cried, tremors threading through his voice. The last vestiges of his innocence clashed with the darker aspect of himself, and I held my breath, teetering between hope and despair. Milo, it's okay to be scared, I urged, my heart shattering with the knowledge that I was never immune to fear either. But don't abandon your heart. Remember those who love you, who would fight for you. The shadows surged, momentarily tumultuous, and the intruder's arrogance cracked. Love is a flawed weapon. What do you think it's worth against power, boy? Milo faltered, caught between the echoes of lost laughter and the invasive pull of malevolent promise. What if this power means I'll never have to feel ordinary or scared again? He struggled to reason, doubt etching his features. In that moment of tumult, a flicker of courage danced within, an ember glowing. Under the ashes of fear. You're already extraordinary, Milo. You have the power to define your own destiny without losing yourself. And as if we were all suspended in time, the figures of light began to gather, forming a protective circle around us, soft encouragement woven into their essence. Their whispers enveloped the chaos. You were never meant to walk this path alone, Milo. Choose wisely. But it was too late. The darkness had seeped into his heart, entwining his senses. I can't, his voice trembled, uncertainty now battling the urge for freedom. I don't know if I can go back. Just then the shadows surged violently, engulfing the flickers of light that had emerged, scattering them across the ground like scattered dreams. I felt my heart begin to shatter, the loss flooding my chest with unbearable weight. Suddenly I gasped. The figure of Lily was spiraling through the darkness, fighting valiantly against the dark entities, trying to reach him. Milo! I'll always be with you. Just look within. The once promising flicker of hope began to dim as the shadows writhed hungrily, closing in like tendrils of dark energy, consuming everything in their path. I felt a desperate urge to leap forward, to reach out and pull him back, to shield him from the encroaching darkness. But as I lunged toward him, a sudden shocking pain erupted in my chest, immobilizing me. That in an instant everything shifted. Milo! I cried, the air thick with despair. The world around me faded to black, and just as I fell, My heart shattered with the realization that whatever decision he made now would forever alter the course of our lives. The shadows drew ever closer, wrapping around my son as my vision blurred with tears, a suppressed scream clawing at my throat, echoing the weight of betrayal and love unfulfilled. And then amidst the silence I heard a word echo through the dark chaos, one that froze my heartbeat, a promise, a threat amidst every whisper. Goodbye. The darkness enveloped him, shadows curling around Milo's form, pulling him away from my grasp, as the specter of his sister shimmered like a fading dream. In that moment I understood that the choice had been made, and the true battle was just beginning. Each heartbeat felt like a silent drumbeat of loss, echoing through the emptiness that surrounded me. The heaviness of despair sank deeper as the darkness clawed around Milo, pulling him into an abyss that felt as infinite as my love for him. Goodbye, the shadows whispered again, a melodic echo that sent icy tendrils down my spine. With every ounce of strength, I fought against the numbing pain that threatened to consume me. I could feel the flickers of light straining against the darkness, vibrating with urgency, reaching out toward Milo. Fight, Milo. Fight for your heart. My voice, though filled with desperation, lingered in the cool air like a fragile promise, but it seemed to be nothing more than a whisper lost in the storm. All around me, the world was engulfed in a chilling silence that felt suffocating. I caught glimpses of the faces of those who had stood by us, who had once been part of our lives, friends who had turned into shadows themselves in this place of power and temptation. Each face bore a story filled with laughter and warmth, and I could almost feel their warmth enveloping me, urging me to reach for hope even as the darkness devoured my soul. As I strained against the pull of despair, I thought of Lily and how her voice had once been a beacon. You are not alone. I whispered the words as if invoking her spirit once more, calling forth her courage that was stitched into the very fabric of our memories. I remembered the way she had tucked her tiny fingers into Milo's hand, how they would play beneath the sun, and how she reminded him of the joy in simply being himself. Milo, I cried, desperation spilling from me, fueling my fight against the shadows. You are so much more than this. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw him falter, a flickering light in his eyes as he wrestled against the darkness constricting his soul. But just as quickly the shadows surged, binding him tighter, feeding on his uncertainty. I was powerless, trapped in my own storm. Then a flicker of motion caught my eye amidst the chaos, a figure that shouldn't have been there. A glimpse of life weaving through the darkness. My heart raced with the shock of recognition. David, I gasped, the name barely escaping my lips. My estranged husband, who had long faded into the background of our lives, stepped forward, his eyes ghostly yet full of anguish. Milo, he called, an echo of paternal desperation reverberating through the emptiness. You don't have to choose this. We can fight together. His appearance was both a blessing and a betrayal. Where had he been all these years, and why had he re-emerged at such a critical moment? The very man who had walked away was now trying to reclaim the space between us. Milo's eyes darted between us, the turmoil within him palpable. It was too much, the weight of unresolved anger, love and disappointment pressed upon him. Dad? The quiver in Milo's voice was heart-wrenching. You're here? Always. Though David's voice was steadier than mine, it trembled with unexpressed grief and lost time. You have to remember who you are, Milo. Don't let them use you. The shadows rippled with fury, snaking between us as they balked against the sight of David. I could feel their anger simmering, threatening to unleash their darkness upon him, upon us all. You are a fool to think family can save you from power, the intruder spat, his voice a serpent's hiss, cutting through the familial love that hung heavy in the air. Milo, I urged, pushing through the tumult of despair that want to choke my words. This is who you were meant to be. You hold love inside you. It isn't a weapon. It's your strength. How could you come back now? Milo's voice cracked like the surface of ice, vulnerable and jagged. You left us. The chaos seemed to pause, a balance teetering between our three voices. The air felt electric, as if the fabric of reality itself was swaying in the midst of unsettled emotions. My heart raced, rippling with a storm of nostalgia, anger and fragile hope. Had David's return been calculated, or had he truly felt the urgency? Because I regret it all, Milo. David's voice rose, raw with so many unsaid truths. I thought leaving would spare you from the darkness I feared. I was wrong. Don't believe him, snarled the shadowy figure, the intruder becoming more agitated, sensing the fracture in their hold over Milo. Family means nothing. You can have everything, join me, and never feel ordinary again. The shadows writhed as Milo's expression shifted, torn between the two men he had known or thought he had known. I could sense the struggle within him, the pulse of uncertainty and longing pulling him in both directions. The light and love we had always been surrounded by flickered like a candle's flame, risking snuffing out. Milo, look at me. David's voice resonated with urgency, as if his very presence was tethering him to reality. You are not what the darkness claims you to be. You are not just bloodlines or relationships. You whatever is in your heart. In that moment I saw it, a crack in the dark facade that surrounded my son, a sliver of clarity. Milo, remember your sister, they'll never let her down, I said, my heart soaring with every recollection, every moment of joy and laughter we had shared. You are a guardian of those hearts. You are a light. But the darkness had tightened its grasp, and Milo teetered on a brink that was too precarious to navigate. A choice he had yet to voice, each second feeling like shards of glass digging deeper into my bones. Finally, I saw Milo clutch his head, overwhelmed. I don't know what to choose. His voice was a fractured whisper, and my heart shattered all over again at his vulnerability. Shadows tightened their grip, and I felt my breath hitch. Milo! Suddenly, with a desperate lunge forward, the figure of Lily flickered back into view, shimmering as she broke through the shadows. Brother, please listen to your heart. But before he could reach out, so did the shadows. They lashed out, pulling him between worlds. Milo! I screamed, heart racing, reaching for him as he was yanked from my grasp, terrified and torn between love and the darkness that promised everything and nothing all at once. But just as hope felt lost, a scream pierced the air. The unexpected sound was one of sheer rawness, a familiar voice that pierced through the chaos, wrenching my focus back toward it. Milo! It was Lily's voice, that resurrection of innocence, now resonating not just in the darkness but echoing through the impending storm, the soft flicker of a candle in the night, once again defying the shadows. And in that breathless moment, as shadows cloaked us all, I felt the realization deepen within me like a knife. The battle was not only for our son but for the souls woven into the very fabric of our love and loss. Choose light, Milo. And just like that, everything shifted. The shadows lunged, gripping, clawing, and silencing, but I could see him fighting, his spirit sparking back to life against their inhospitable push. But before I could scream once more or reach into flesh to save him once and for all, an explosion of light erupted, illuminating the deep darkness surrounding us. And in that flash, the last thing I saw was Milo's pained expression before the shadows claimed him once and for all, a soul lost in the tumult before everything turned silent, drowning my heart in the agony of loss, and I was left alone, torn apart by the haunting question of whether I truly knew my son at all. Where are you, Milo? I whispered, the crack of my heart echoing louder than the shadows. With pain etching deeper, I realized this was only the beginning of the true, heartbreaking battle ahead. The silence that descended upon us felt heavier than the shadows that now embraced my son. I stood in that void for what felt like a lifetime, the ache in my heart wrapping around me like barbed wire. My world had cracked open, and here I was, desperately trying to clutch the remnants of my son, my Milo, but he felt infinitely far away, like a mirage in a desert I had long wandered through. The echoes of Lily's voice surged through my mind, her laughter, her brightness, each memory sliced through the darkness swirling around me, reminding me of the pure light that once inhabited our lives. But even as I clung to those thoughts, I instinctively felt a flicker of something profound deep within myself. Love mixed with fear churned in the pit of my stomach, compelling me outward, urging me to find a way back to Milo. Enough! The intruder's voice sliced through the heavy stillness, filled with an arrogance that twisted my insides. This is futile. You are only prolonging the inevitable. I felt tears welling up in my eyes, but the well of despair was poisoning my spirit. You don't know him. I shouted back fiercely. You can't define my son. Milo's absence loomed large around me, the air thick with the weight of potential futures untold. I willed my heart to steady itself even as despair clawed at its seams. Love, I whispered to the void, love is not weak. Love is a choice, a tether that can withstand the darkest storms. In the distance, I could hear the echoes of the shadows swirling, whispering menacing promises that sought to drown out the light. He has awakened to his true self, and you will only be a hindrance. The figure spat, a cruel smile dancing on his face. My heart pounded and suddenly clarity surged through me. Every moment spent nurturing Milo, every sacrifice I had made, every lesson wrapped in love, they were all powerful in their own right. No, I vowed, bolstered by the unyielding love I felt for my son. I won't let you take him without a fight. With each word I uttered, I felt a wave of purpose crash over me, pushing back against the darkness that surrounded me. Milo, I called out, my voice echoing, trembling yet filled with conviction. You are not destined to walk this path. We are stronger together. I am your mother, and I believe in you. In response to my words, the shadows shifted, retreating slightly as if uncertain how to combat the voice of familial love. I could feel doubts creeping into the intruder's arrogance, sensing the weight of their power wavering against the warmth of my unwavering heart. With every ounce of desperation fueling my resolve, I began to visualize Milo, the little boy who climbed trees, who laughed and made games out of nothing, whose heart remained pure despite the chaos that surrounded him. Remember the oak tree by the lake, the branches that reached for the skies? Remember your sister's laugh. I continued, desperately reaching for the memories that defined him. Remember the light of 1,000 stars that twinkled in the sky? You are made of that light, Milo. You always have been. And then it happened, a glimmer of radiance broke through. As the shadows retreated momentarily, I saw him. Out of the darkness emerged Milo, hesitating on the edge of despair and choice, his features etched with uncertainty, but slowly illuminated by the memories I offered. Mom? His voice trembled, as if he was fighting against a current too strong to overcome. The shadows flickered violently, but I pressed on, gathering the remnants of my love into a wildfire of determination. You are not your heritage. You are not the darkness that seeks to define you. Break free. Come back to me. The shadows roared, swirling chaotically around us, but Milo stood on the brink, caught between the whisper of dark power and the echo of my voice. His brow furrowed, and I could see the flicker of recognition igniting within him. The love we had shared battling against the bond formed with the darkness. The intruder seethed, his expression filled with fury as he lost his grip on the darkness. Foolish woman. You think a mere memory can save him? But something shifted behind Milo's eyes, and I leaned in closer, feeling emboldened by a surge of familiarity mixed with fierce love. You're stronger than you know, I urged. Choose light. Remember, you're never alone in this fight. We will create our kingdom outside of darkness. Sparks of light began to burst forth, illuminating the encroaching shadows. Milo's form flickered in and out as if he were battling the very fabric of his existence, fighting against the fears that bound him. The air crackled with intensity, and suddenly, it was as if the universe held its breath waiting. Mom. A whisper barely audible but filled with a heavy weight. I don't want to be afraid anymore. His words wavered, and in that moment, the darkness hesitated, flickering as sunlight does through a grove of trees on a bright day. But what if I am meant for this? Chosen? I implored, desperate to guide him back to the love that had birthed his very essence. You have always been chosen for greatness, your heart, your kindness, your brilliance. Not for darkness. Choose your heart, Milo. Choose us. The shadows around him recoiled, but he looked deeper within, wrestling against the internal tempest. No, the intruder shouted in fury, lashing out as if the sound alone could push us apart. You will be alone, powerless. This is your heritage. With my heart on fire, I rushed to bridge the cultural rift, calling out once more, Milo. Look inside, feel the love of family. Let it guide you. You are the light and you can choose to be free. And then it happened. A radiant explosion of warmth surged through the shadows. That flickering light, Milo's courage burst forth from within him, illuminating the very essence of who he was. The memories of laughter, hope, and the sweet moments we had shared filled the air with a cacophony of light, stunning everything into silence and the heart of that brilliance. I felt magic rolling through my veins, the warmth of my son enveloping me as we poured the love we had built into a radiant glow. The shadows trembled, desperate yet terrified as they began to disintegrate, losing their hold against the sanctity of our bond. Mom! His voice surged through me, significant and true, as Milo stepped forward, breaking the shackles of dark choice that had held him captive. I choose love. I choose us. As the shadows crumbled away, the light illuminated everything I had so desperately fought for, the bond of a mother and son, rekindled through the fire of our connection. And in that breathtaking moment, it felt as if the entire universe realigned around us. I reached for him, our hands finally meeting with warmth and assurance, and together we stood against the remnants of darkness, finding solace in the sanctuary of unconditional love, light flooding the chaos around us. The figure of the intruder, furious yet diminished, vanished into wisps of shadow. Milo and I radiated with an unbreakable bond, filled with sorrow, joy, and a fierce understanding that we would never walk the uncertainty of our path alone again. As the storm dissipated, dissolving into memories long buried, I took a breath, holding my son once more, a realization tightening in the depths of my chest. "You are my heart, my light," I whispered, feeling his warmth radiating against me. "And I am proud of you, every choice you made today." Together we rebuilt our lives amid the remnants of shadows past, forever entwined by the boundless power of love. And as I took his hand, ready to face a new world, I knew the darkness could never extinguish the light we carried. Not when it bloomed brightly from within. "From now on," I declared softly, "we write our own story." And for the first time together we stepped forward into a future that would honor not just who we were but all the love that awaited us as fate would have it. Together we would find our way through the light, forever unbroken.